My name is John Kovach, and we're here today to talk about our uncle, Eugene Brinker, Bud Brinker, that was KIA at D-Day, June 6, 1944 in Normandy, France. I feel very honored to be involved in this and deeply appreciate what Jason and Walter are doing.
My name is Eugene Brinker, Bud Brinker. I'm named after our uncle, Eugene Patrick Brinker. I was born 6 months after Bud was killed at the invasion of Normandy. I was born and raised in Ashland here, and we've just honored to be here and honored to do something in commemorating his duty and that stuff on June 6, 1944.
You are about to be marching on the great stage. The free men of the world are marching together to victory.
He enlisted in the Army on August 7th, 1940, and he did his boot camp at Fort Sheridan, and then after that, his first duty station was a Presidio by San Francisco, and he was there for, I guess, at least a year before the war actually broke out. He and his best friend stayed there. Japan had bombed Pearl Harbor, so their unit was assigned to take care of the security around the Golden Gate Bridge. Then after that, they were shipped out to Newport News, where they got on a troop transport, and they wound up in North Africa fighting the Germans. And our Uncle Bud was wounded in North Africa while he was serving there, and his best friend, Pat Lemming, was captured by the Germans. He was a POW for like 2.5 years. After he recovered from his wound, he was sent with General Patton's army to Sicily. And then after the Sicily invasion, then they were sent to England to get ready for the Normandy invasion. And of course, that's when he was KIA June 6, 1944. He was in the first wave. He was with the 16th Regiment of the 1st Infantry Division, the Big Red One. My mother, I can't think of the guy's name either.
Billy Little.
Billy Little, yeah, okay. Billy Little. And anyway, my mother, he told my mother that they were, looking over the edge of the landing craft. I think they called them a Higgins boat back then. And what happened was a lot of noise, and he kept looking ahead of him, and he went to look another time or whatever, and the landing craft that my uncle was in was gone. And they knew it didn't hit the beach yet, it was just gone. And there was smoke and debris all over, so it was really hard to say, what actually happened, but they feel that one of those German 88 rounds hit that landing craft, and everybody aboard was killed. And he came home in a sealed coffin or casket. All four of our uncles, including Bud's dad, Bernard, there was Harry, Bernard, Eugene, and Jack, the four brothers. all served during World War II. And then the three girls, the sisters, my Aunt Catherine's husband, Rollin, was a first sergeant in the Third Army with Patton, and he was in the Battle of the Bulge. And then my Aunt Mary Ellen's husband, John, was in the Navy. I don't know where he served, but all I know, he was active Navy. And then my dad was in the Army, and again, he never talked about it, so I have no idea where he served. Anyway, the family itself, we have several first cousins. 7 of Bud Brinker's nephews all served in the military, including us. We're proud of that, and the fact is, our grandmother was very outspoken when it came to military service, and there was a time when my mother told me the story that they were in the post office, and our grandma was with her best friend, Mary McDonald, whose son was also in the Pacific during World War II. And they came across this young guy with a package, and Grandma Brinker asked him why he wasn't in the service. And he said, I got a deferment because I have bad teeth. And so the story goes, Grandma Brinker said, well, you damn fool, they don't want you to bite them, they want you to shoot them. And that was that. And then the other thing she was quoted as saying was, if I got 4 sons and they're all in the military, then the rest of them can serve too. The day that he left, my mother said that she called to him, and he just kept walking. They lived at 504 Water Street, and he just kept walking. He walked up 5th Avenue, and she kept calling him, she said, till he was out of sight, and they never saw him again. A little bit later, after boot camp, he apparently never came home after boot camp. And so my Aunt Catherine, who was the breadwinner, she ran a beauty shop at that time. Her and Grandma Brinker went out to California, to Fort Ord, where Bud was stationed at that time. And then they visited, and that's what that picture is. They're at Fort Ord. And that was the last they ever saw of him. The first notice they got was about a month before they knew he actually was killed. They got a notice that he was missing in action. And then a month later, they got a telegram from the War Department with 2 Purple Hearts. His name, I have both Purple Hearts. His name is on both Purple Hearts. And one was for being wounded in Africa, and then the second one, of course, was when he was killed at Normandy. I knew when I was growing up I was going to go in the service because my mother talked about her brother a lot, and not just him but the rest of her brothers, how they all served, and especially around Memorial Day and Veterans Day and you know, things that were significant to veterans, and of course June 6th. And so after I got out of high school, I had a chance to play college football, and I never played college football because I enlisted in the Marine Corps, and I just felt it was my turn, it was my time to go, and I felt obligated, and it's probably the best thing I ever did. I'm very proud that I went in, and I served during the Vietnam War. I was with a Marine detachment aboard the USS Hancock, and the aircraft from our carrier, they were Sky Raiders, propel jobs. They used those for specifically close air support for the ground troops in country. And at that time, the South Vietnamese Army used them probably more than we did. That was just before we actually intervened in the war. And anyway, we patrol the area. We were in the South China Sea. We patrol the area from the Mekong Delta all the way up to the Gulf of Tonkin. And in fact, I can remember being there when President Kennedy was killed on November 22nd, 1963. And then I was there after that. I think we left in 64. I got out of there. And then when I got home, I got transferred to 2nd Marine Division. And we were sent to the Mediterranean. There was a NATO problem on the island of Malta. So we did a couple mock landings with the French Marines on Corsica, and then we got ready to land in Malta. And the morning before we landed, they reached a peace accord. So then we got sent back to the United States and to Camp Lejeune, and then from there were sent to Gitmo, Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. That was a staging area, and that was a jumping off place for the Dominican Republic. And we were only down there for a couple months, but I think they had like 30 Marines killed down there, and it shouldn't have happened, I guess, is what I'm saying. Anyway, after that, I had my 4 years in. I wanted to try out for a 2nd Marine Division football team. First sergeant wouldn't sign my TAD paper or whatever, and I thought, well, that's enough for me then, so I got out. And I went into law enforcement. It was a good fit. Chain of command, uniforms, guns, all that kind of stuff. So I've had a good life. I'm very grateful for all the good things that have happened to me. I've had chances to work with some really good people that I think about all the time.
I was I was drafted into the Army in December 1965. And this was right when the build-up was really going to town on the building up for the military for the Vietnam War. And I did my basic training at Fort Lewis, Washington, and then did my AIT there. And we were sequestered at that time because of the build-up for the war. We kind of knew that we were probably going to get shipped over to Vietnam, but nothing for certain. Even in those days, even if you had to go to the PX for your toiletries or whatever, they marched us to the PX, and we come back. We were assigned to our barracks. We couldn't even go out of our barracks except during training. Even to go to church on Sunday, if you wanted to go to church, they'd march you to your church service and march you back home. To keep you away from the general public. Anyhow, we got our orders to ship over to Vietnam in July of 1966. I shipped over on a troop carrier, and then we toured the coast of Vietnam from Da Nang all the way down to Quy Nhon area. Then at the troop carrier, we were loaded onto the landing crafts, the Higgins boats, whatever you want to call it, just like Bud was killed on in World War II. issued our live ammunition and whatever, and prepared for the worst. I mean, everybody from the colonel on down were pretty much shaking in our boots. You know, we didn't know what we were getting into, and just we're doing an assault landing, and couldn't see over the craft to where we were going or what was ahead of us. And I mean, everybody was rattled. I mean, honest to God, everybody was pretty rattled because that's all I could think of was my Uncle Bud being killed on one of them damn things, and this is deja vu. You know, you get close to shore, and we're out quite a ways, but it was a wet landing. The front end of the craft goes down, and there goes a water skier being pulled by a Chris Craft runabout. There's a big sigh of relief for a bunch of guys, a lot of guys and stuff, you know. So, but then on, that was in Quinlan, Vietnam. From there on, we prepared. I was an advanced party for the 4th Infantry Division, and our project next was to get all the equipment up to the Central Highlands up near Pleiku, Vietnam, and built the base camp for the 4th Infantry Division. And while I was there, besides the landing craft incident, thinking about Uncle Bud, I came in from the field one time, and my mother was always good for sending and everything she could. She knew that no matter what kind of postage she put on the stuff and how much there was that she was sending, that it would go through. They didn't kick it back because of lack of postage. And she sent a lot of stuff, you know, Kool-Aid and beef jerky and treats and whatever. And then I was getting the Ashland Daily Press, and I think I'm not sure if she was sending it anymore or if I was getting it through the military. And I come in from the field one time and that stuff, and sitting going through the mail, and I open up the Daily Press, and there was an article to the effect, Bud Brinker missing in action. And I thought, yeah, but just for a moment, I thought, am I a ghost or what? I didn't know what to think of that. It was such a shock. It was unreal. Then as soon as I started reading, that was real. It was a throwback article that the Ashland Daily Press was doing at that time, and it just happened to be in one of the papers that I got while I'm sitting in my tent in 1966.
My dad, after my dad was drafted, my mother, I was a baby at the time, and my mother moved back home. You know, they wanted to combine their resources, which was very few. The country was still struggling after the Depression, and nobody had any money back then. And you might have worked and, you know, had enough for a meal, but it wasn't enough to pay the bills. So my mother moved back home. My Aunt Catherine ran a beauty shop. She was the breadwinner. She paid all the bills and bought the food. My mother did a lot of the cooking and house cleaning, for her share. And times were just really tough, and it was that way for most families around here. You know, this area was always a blue-collar area. The railroad built Ashland, and at one time there was a lot of railroad activity here. And so, you know, after the Depression and then the war came along, people were pretty strapped. But I think the thing to remember was the country was united. In spite of your political standing, people got along. They disagreed with each other, but they got along, they respected each other. It isn't like today. This country's been tore apart, and it's all because of the things that have come along, turning one person against another. And it wasn't like that back then. And you know, to quote Martin Luther King, he said, if we can't live together as brothers, then we're going to die together as fools. And I think he was right. He was right on. And this country's got to pull together. They got to knock this crazy stuff off about all these different factions and whatnot. And the reason the United States was successful in World War II was, besides the guys out there fighting, the home front supported them 100%. There was a lot of people working together, and that's what made the country go, and that's why we won the war. And the other thing that people should remember is that was the greatest generation. They saved the world. They literally saved the world. And like I said, I'm very proud to say I was in the military. I think it's an honor to serve my country, and I feel real good about it. These are some pictures that my son took when he was over there and visited the Normandy Beach, and our uncle's name is on the monument there with the other soldiers that had fallen at that time. My grandma tried to get his medals way back when. I don't know that much about it, who she contacted, but she never got them. Well, then my mother tried to get the medals twice from 2 different congressmen and never got a reply from either one. And I got a hold of Tom Tiffany, and his office found out from the National, let's see, where is that here? National Personnel Record Center in St. Louis. Anyway, I got his medals, and Tom Tiffany's office is the one that found out, what medals he was qualified to get. And we're going to have a family reunion this summer, and we're going to have a display put there for the rest of the family. None of them have ever seen this, and so I think it'll be a nice remembrance. He's somebody that none of us ever really knew because he had left for the service before any of us were born. And but my mother was his twin sister, so I heard a lot about him. And I just, like I said, feel very honored to be involved in remembrance of the soldiers that gave their life for their country on D-Day.
Thank you both, not only for coming in and talking about your uncle and sharing his Normandy story, but also thank you for your own service as well too, both during the military and your career after.